Hello everyone and welcome back to Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies. My name is Sarah and in today's video I'll be showing you how you can make a really cool interactive historical timeline with your students. This one's specifically about Mesopotamia, and this is just the answer key version, and I'll show you a closer look at this teaching tool. But even though I'll be showing you one for Mesopotamia today, you can apply the same idea with any subject you're teaching, and I hope that you'll find it to be pretty interesting. Now, basically, the point of this interactive timeline project is to help our students understand how these different pieces fit together and these different groups of people or events we're talking about fit together, thinking in broader historical or chronological terms. And in doing this, there are going to be three different things we're plotting along this timeline today. And that has to do with, specifically for Mesopotamia, different groups of people of Mesopotamia, as well as some maps based upon where they were located, as well as a few different related images that fit in with this topic. So like I said, I've got the answer key here, but what would the students be doing? That's probably something on your mind. So in this particular resource, we've got a couple different components. First, there is the blank timeline pages. Now these have the dates pre-filled in, but the other spots are all blank because students will need to create this. There are also some sheets with clues, which have the reading passages about each group, as well as maps and images. I've added little dotted lines for the students to be cutting them out, but essentially just on 2 pages here is where all of the different groups are and the maps, the images that relate to them. Students are going to be cutting out these passages, figuring out where they go on the timeline, and then adding the corresponding maps and the images based upon what's in the passages. So that's kind of a little backstory about how we're going to do this, and if you wanted to apply this to your own topic. I'll be showing a little bit about the assembly process here too, so you can see exactly how it works. If I was a student completing this assignment, or even as a teacher creating a sample for their students, the first thing to do is going to be to tape the timeline sheets together, since they were not able to fit all on one timeline. This particular Mesopotamia timeline has 4,000 years of history. A little over that, actually. The first thing we're going to do is start cutting margins off the left and right side of the page. I'm going to actually start with the middle page of the timeline and just go through just with a pair of scissors and cut those off. This will just allow for a cleaner look. So I did have a chance to cut the side margins off the middle page now, so it's going to fit better on my timeline. Now, as a teacher, you've got 2 choices. You could just have students do that and just on that middle page, and that will still make the timeline look good. However, it won't fold as well because there will be a little bit of overlap. So I also recommend cutting margins off the other pages if you anticipate that students will be folding these up. Maybe if they're bringing them back and forth, this is a learning tool they can use, throughout their unit. For my purposes today, I'm just going to cut off the margins from the middle section. After I've done that, now I'm going to be taping the pieces together. So to do this, I would model with your students that they just need small pieces of tape. Just, a piece of tape 1 inch or 2 long can go at the top of the page as well as at the bottom of the page. So you can see I just have now attached these 2 pages together, and I would repeat it for the other side. All right, now my blank timeline is ready to go. And I can actually start putting on the reading passages, maps, and images. At this point, this is where students can start cutting out the clues. Now as I'm cutting these out here, one thing you will want to think about is whether you want your students to work on this independently or in partners or groups. There is merit no matter which option you choose. You could even have students work individually, but do it as a class. So go through each phase together and make sure students are all on the same page when doing that. So I've had a chance to cut out some of the reading passages, and you're going to want your students to start with that because the reading passages will also affect which images and maps they place in each location, because we have the Sumerians, the Akkadians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Persians and Phoenicians all included on this timeline. So we want to make sure students have the civilizations and the groups in the right places so then we can move forward with the extra maps and clues. So it says the Sumerians, that's bolded, Akkadians, etc. And they are all jumbled up on the clue sheet, but students will have to look at the dates in the passage to determine where it fits on the timeline. Years are already written here on the timeline, which is great. So I can see, for instance, I've got the Akkadians here, and I can see here on the passage it says Sargon established the Akkadian Empire in 2334 BCE. So with that, I see here on my timeline, if I'm looking, oh, it says the same year, and I see here that the Akkadian Empire collapsed in 2154 BCE, which is the other date. So I know that the Akkadians has to go in that section. To make it really straightforward for students, there is a box the same size as the passage, and it says attach reading passage here. So I know that this has to go right in that spot. We do encourage your students to place all of their clues or passages first before gluing anything down, just so they don't make a mistake and glue in the wrong place. Likewise here, I've got the Phoenicians. So I would be looking at the chart here. I see that they were thriving due to their extensive trade in the region from the years 1200 BCE to 332 BCE. When I look on my chart here, I see that there's a spot for those same dates. I'm going to place the reading passage right in that spot. You'll just keep going until you've placed all of the reading passages and glued them down. Once you've done that with the reading passages, you can then work on the maps and the images. So once your students have cut out all the images, they can start placing them in the correct spot on the timeline. Now again, it is important that they're reading the reading passage to help them understand it. As your students read the reading passage, they can identify some of the clues mentioned. So for example, as students are reading the passage about the Babylonians, they'll see that Hammurabi's code is mentioned. And what do you know, we've got a little image here for Hammurabi's code. In that situation then, I've got that ready. I would be able to, there's a little box where it says attach image here. And this one, you can also go based upon size. So for instance, with the Babylonians, there's 2 images included. And the Hammurabi's code image is skinnier and taller. So I see there's a clear spot for it. I'm just going to place the image right there. Likewise for maps, when you read each passage, there will be a little blurb talking about that particular map. Here's one of the maps, and I can look closely at the map as well as the reading passage to determine where it's from. So for instance, I can see in the Persians reading passage, the Persians expanded beyond modern-day Iran into Mesopotamia, Asia Minor, Phoenicia, and Egypt. It became the largest empire in the world at the time, with more modern-day countries included than any other empire formed around the Fertile Crescent. So upon reading that, if I'm looking at my maps, I can see here that this particular map is the largest amount of territory, and a lot of those countries that were mentioned in the image are also reflected here. So at that point then, I can go ahead and put that map right over the box with the Persians. Once you have all the images and maps labeled, that is where then you can glue them down. Either glue sticks or regular glue work fine. Regular glue tends to be a bit more durable. I would just recommend you talk through your students about putting maybe a small dot in each corner. That's all it will need, just so we're not going through our supplies too quickly. But that's kind of how you can set up these timelines. I hope it's a really cool teaching tool that you enjoy using with your students. If you liked the look of this Mesopotamia version, I do have it linked below for you if you'd like to pick up a copy for yourself. And please let us know if there's any other civilizations that you think you might want us to create one of these for eventually. So thank you so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe to the channel up here if you're new, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!